Welcome to the Witchy Work Wishes podcast, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. Welcome back to Witchy Work Wishes, and welcome to our 2026 calendar year. I cannot believe I'm saying that out loud, but this episode is not just the start of a new year. It is also our first episode of Season 5. We are opening 2026 together here with episode number 169. It is a new season. It is a new year. It is a fresh stretch of the path ahead of us. And there is something super special about starting here together. We're not going to rush. We're not going to force anything. We are just intentionally stepping into what's next and choosing, like really choosing, how we want this year to unfold. Today is all about goals, and I want to say this like right up front. Today is not about pressure. This isn't going to be one of those new year, new you type episodes or situations. There's nothing about you that needs fixing. What we're doing today is softer than that, and honestly, a lot more powerful. If you actually do need one of those goal episodes, I have 4 from previous years that are not like year specific. And since this is something I personally do every year, some of those topics are going to repeat today. My goal making process is pretty set in stone. I am in my mid to late 50s, and I have been doing this since my mid to late teens. But like you, I want to learn and grow and be a better goal maker, goal achiever. So today is going to have a different flavor from years past. Again, some familiar themes and threads, but today we are talking about choosing our magic for the year ahead. The goals that we are willing to commit to, the boundaries we are finally ready to hold, and the kind of energy we actually want to live inside of in 2026. Like not just for January, but for the whole unfolding year. Think of this episode as us sitting together at the very edge of the year, kind of like we did last week with our big Year the Wheel review. Candle lit, notebook open, but this time we are asking ourselves one simple question. What do I want this year to feel like? First, some quick housekeeping notes, though. I have the full moon January book reading available now on the Hearth and Hen section of our Patreon family. I got super cozy for this one. I actually personally have 2 of those, big storytelling type books. One is the Brothers Grimm, which I started off the book readings with. And the other one is Hans Christian Andersen, which is what I went to for the January reading. And I would just love if you can join me for it. It actually just aired with our full moon on the 3rd, and it really is a great way to ring in the new year. The Hearth and Inn section, if you're not familiar with this, of a Patreon, is the video companion to this audio part of Witchy Work Wishes. But I'm just having so much fun with it. I would love for you to join me over there. Let's see. Also, I want to share something with you about the way I do our monthly card draws, especially for Patreon, because I think it matters. And I think it helps you understand how intentional this space really, really is. Every month when I sit down with one of my animal oracle decks, I am not just pulling a card for curiosity's sake. I'm asking a bigger question. I'm asking, what energy are we meant to work with together? What feels supportive, steady, and useful for our lives? Not just in theory, but in real everyday moments. Once that card comes through, everything else we create for Patreon grows out of it. The grimoire work, the worksheet, the journal prompts, the spell, the tea, the practices, all of it. All of it is built to support that specific energy. It's like, we're building a little ecosystem around one intention, and then walking through the month together, side by side, working with it gently and consistently. But this month, January was a little different. When I first pulled the card, it landed very clearly as a personal direction card for me. One of those moments where the message isn't wrong. It's just not meant to be shared in the same way. It was guidance I needed to sit with privately to work through on my own path before it could ever become collective work. And that's important, I think, to say out loud, because when we do magic together, especially in a community like this, well, in any community, the energy has to be right for us, not just for me. I never want to, hand you something that's half formed or that belongs to my personal crossroads rather than to our shared circle. Anyways, once a card is drawn, that's it. Whether I like it or not, I don't reshuffle because it feels uncomfortable. I do not pull another card because I wish it said something different. That first card is the conversation. It is the message that showed up honestly and without editing. And even when it challenges me, well, maybe especially when it challenges me, that's usually the sign that it's doing exactly what it is meant to do. So when I talk about pulling a different card for Patreon this month, oh, it is not because I rejected the first one. I didn't. I honored it. I just recognized that it was meant for my personal work, not our collective space. In this practice, we don't override the message, right? We listen to it, we respect it, and then we decide where it belongs. So I did. I listened, I grounded, I shuffled again, and I asked a different question. I asked, what does our Patreon family need to work with together this month? What energy will support us collectively as we move into January, as we set our footing, as we find our rhythm again? And that's the energy that shaped everything you will see this month. The prompts, the spell, the grimoire pages, the practices we are holding together. It's not about, it's not about perfection or doing it right. It is about choosing energy intentionally, though, and letting it support us as real humans living real lives. So if you're working with a card this month, just know you are not doing it alone. We are all showing up to it together. We are all learning from it together, and we are letting it unfold in a way that feels grounded and supportive and aligned for where we, actually are like right now. Now, at the end of the episode, after I do the moon update, I will tell you a little bit more about what that first card draw did for me to motivate me to work on my 2026 path and not repeat a lesson that has been lingering. This was a really big card for me, you guys, and I did not take it lightly, and it actually blends perfectly with today's episode and setting the feeling for 2026. So I know this episode does go a little bit long. I would love for you to stay with me for the whole thing, and then at the end, I will give you the personal side to what I am going through and working on this year. Speaking of, are you ready? Are you ready for some intention setting? Ready for some drafting? It is a new year, and the wheel is turning. And we witches, we don't set goals the same way the rest of the world does. We don't thrive under hustle culture timelines. We don't bloom under constant urgency. And we definitely do not do our best magic when everything is forced. We listen first. We choose intentionally, and we protect our energy like the sacred resource it is. So today we are going to reframe what goal setting looks like through a witchy lens. We are going to talk about goals as living spells, things that grow and evolve over time. We are going to talk about boundaries as protective magic, not walls, but more like wards. And we're going to talk about energy as the real currency of your year, because time means nothing if you're exhausted inside it. There's no overwhelm here, no massive checklist, no pressure to have it all figured out by the end of this episode. Hopefully, just for you, some clarity, some intention, some choosing, like on purpose, how we want to walk into 2026. And the best part? Well, we do not have to do it alone. We are going to do this together. Today, we are asking one gentle question together. What do I actually want this year to feel like when I am living inside it? All right, well, let's talk about goals for a minute, and let's do it without all of the weird pressure that usually comes along for the ride this time of year. Because if you've ever hit January and immediately felt behind or, I don't know, overwhelmed, or like you were somehow already failing at a year that had barely even started, well, you're not alone. Traditional New Year goal culture can be incredibly loud. It comes with timelines and checklists and a whole lot of comparison. And for most witches, that kind of energy just doesn't land well in our bodies. We're intuitive. We are cyclical. We move in seasons, not straight lines. So when the world tells us we need to have everything figured out by January 1st, every plan mapped, every habit locked in, it just creates a bunch of pressure instead of clarity. For me, it does. And pressure does not create magic. It shuts it down. A lot of that pressure comes from timelines. Do this by 30 days, achieve that by 6 months, be there, there by the end of the year. But magic doesn't move on someone else's calendar. It really unfolds when the energy is right. And forcing yourself into someone else's timing is one of the fastest ways to burn out or abandon a goal altogether. Then, of course, there is the comparison, which can be especially sneaky. We look around to see what everybody else is building, buying, achieving, announcing, and suddenly our own desires feel smaller or slower or, I don't know, somehow just not enough. And we know better, right? Comparison disconnects you from your intuition. And when you are disconnected from your intuition, well, you are no longer choosing your magic. You are reacting to someone else's. But it's hard. It is human nature to compare. But not this year. This year, we are doing things differently. Instead of goals that feel heavy or rigid, we are going to reframe them as intentions. Intentions are all about direction, right? Not pressure. They give you something to move towards without demanding perfection. We are also going to work with some themes. A theme creates that, cohesion. It lets many choices fall under one umbrella, so you're not like constantly starting over or second guessing yourself. It becomes a touchstone that you can return to again and again throughout the year. And most importantly, we are going to be thinking in terms of energetic direction. Like, how do you want your days to feel? How do you want your work to sit in your body? How do you want to move through your life? Like hurried or grounded? Depleted or supported? And here is the permission piece I really would love for you to hear. You are allowed to want less as long as it's better. You don't need a long list of goals to prove you are motivated or worthy. You don't need to chase every possibility. Choosing fewer things and choosing them with devotion is powerful magic. Focus is not a lack, it is a spell. So as we step into 2026, we are not asking, what should I accomplish? We are asking, what do I want to nurture? And that shift alone changes everything. I want to add a quick note about the numerical value of 2026 as well. When we add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, we land in the power of 10. And in numerology, 10 is not just like 1 with some extra steps. It is a whole different beast. Here's what that means for us as we step into our new year. It means completion and initiation at the same time. 10 holds both the end of a cycle, number 9, and the spark of a new one, number 1. So 2026 isn't asking us to wipe the slate clean. It's really asking us to carry some wisdom forward. We don't start over empty-handed. Like, we are starting this year informed. It means the return to self, but, like kind of leveled up. The 1 inside the 10 is about identity and leadership and personal truth. But because it comes after everything that came before it, this isn't like ego driven, me first type energy. It's grounded confidence. Think, I know who I am. I know what works. I know what doesn't. It means sovereignty and choice. 10 is the number of conscious choice. In 2026, we are not being pushed by urgency or chaos. We really are being invited to choose deliberately how we spend our time, who gets our energy, what stories we keep telling about ourselves. It means closing karmic loops. A lot of long-running themes can finally resolve under a 10-year. Not because we fought harder, but because we finally understood the lesson. And this is huge for habits and relationships with work, money, self-trust, and boundaries. It means quiet power, not chaos. Like this isn't a loud, like everything changes overnight type year. It is a clean lines year, simplifying, streamlining, removing what clutters our magic so what truly matters can breathe. And it means planting seeds that actually grow. The 0 in the 10 amplifies intention. Like what we choose in 2026, even those little small choices, will tend to echo forward. This is a year where consistency beats intensity every time. So if I had to sum it up for us today, I would say 2026 is about choosing our magic with maturity. Not rushing, we're not proving, we're not performing. We are just deciding. And if you feel like you are standing at a threshold, like not real desperate to leap, but ready to step forward on purpose, that is exactly the power of 10 doing its thing. We are not being asked to become someone new. We are being asked to finally live as who we already are. Now, I know list making isn't everyone's favorite thing, but if you are listening to this podcast, I have a feeling there's at least a little part of you that loves it, or maybe, I don't know, wants to love it, or maybe knows that when it works, like it really works. I have mentioned it a bunch recently, but I have always been a list person. There is something for me very grounding about getting the thoughts out of my head and onto paper. It just helps me see what's swirling around inside me, and it gives my energy somewhere to land. So for me, list making isn't about control, it really is more about clarity. When I was in my early 20s, I was very much a New Year goal setter. I'd write my goals out at the beginning of the year and stick them right on the fridge where I could see them every single day. It wasn't about pressure back then, it was, about direction. That visual reminder of what I was choosing to work towards and what I wanted my energy to support. As life got fuller, home and kids and family and responsibility, well, that practice shifted. The goals didn't disappear, not by any means. They just became more private. They moved from the fridge to a notebook, from something on display to something a little bit more sacred. I still wrote them out every January, but I think the relationship changed. It just became less about timelines and more about intention. Now, in my mid 50s, I can tell you this: the practice still matters to me, but the way I do it has evolved. These days, I'm not interested in rigid lists or packed out plans. I am much more focused on creating space to listen first, to brainstorm, to let the ideas flow without immediately organizing or judging them. Now, I've learned that before I can choose my goals, I really need to understand my energy. I need room to explore what feels exciting, what feels heavy, what I am no longer willing to carry into a new year. That free flow stage, the messy notes, the half formed thoughts, the intuitive nudges, well, that's where the real magic shows up. And once I have that clarity, then I organize, then I choose. Not everything, just what truly matters. So today I would love to share a few of the practices that have helped me do this in a way that feels supportive instead of overwhelming. Not to make us busier, not to make us better, but to help us be more intentional, more aligned, and more successful in a way that just actually feels good to live inside. Because choosing our magic for 2026 is not about having the perfect list. It is about listening and then choosing wisely. Let's talk about the why behind goals and list making, because when we understand the purpose, everything else gets easier. At their core, goals give us direction, not a rigid schedule, not a countdown clock. Well, kind of, but a sense of where our energy is meant to flow. They act like a gentle roadmap, reminding us what we are choosing to move towards and what actually matters in this specific season of our lives. For many of us, there's often a big gap between setting goals and achieving them. but we underestimate how much magic happens just by naming them. The moment you write something down, you have already shifted energy. You have moved from vague hoping into intentional choosing. You have told your nervous system, your intuition, and the universe, this matters to me. And that alone creates momentum. When goals are written down, actions begin to form naturally. New habits start to take shape, routines emerge. You begin to notice opportunities that you might have missed before. Not because you're forcing anything, but because your attention is now aligned. And there really is no single, like right way to do goals. This is a deeply, deeply personal process. Tips can help, right? Frameworks can support you, but only you know what alignment feels like in your personal body. The most powerful goals are always the ones rooted in your values. When you start there, success really becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. There will be hard moments. That's a part of any meaningful path, right? But when your goals are aligned with who you truly are, not who you think you're supposed to be, it really does become easier to stay with them. You're not constantly dragging yourself forward, you are choosing to move. Now, another thing, sometimes goals sound good, but we're not actually willing to live the life required to support them. Or, I don't know, maybe we want them because they're admired and praised or valued by others, not because they are true for us. Those goals, well, they don't last. They collect dust because they were never meant to be carried. Choosing our magic in 2026 means being honest about what we are willing to give energy to and what we're not. Now, realism doesn't mean thinking small. I'm not saying that. Your goals can absolutely be big and exciting and expansive, but they do need to be livable. Goals work best when they create manageable steps, not overwhelm. We are not building cages for ourselves, right? We are creating containers that support growth. Now, one of the biggest reasons I think people feel stuck isn't so much lack of desire or motivation. It really is just being overwhelmed. When a goal feels too big, too far away, too undefined, I think it just freezes us in place. So instead of staring at the entire mountain, we learn to focus on the next step. Probably heard this before. I definitely have it in my previous year's goal setting episodes, but it is worth repeating through a witchy lens. A dream written down becomes an intention. An intention broken into steps becomes a path. And a path walked with devotion becomes reality. That's it. This is how we approach our goals, gently, intentionally, and in pieces small enough to move with. Those small steps matter more than you think. Each one really does create a sense of completion, and completion, well, it builds confidence. And guess what? Confidence builds momentum, and then momentum makes it easier to just keep going, even when things get hard. Goals help us move out of that, someday thinking and into conscious choice. They turn wishful hoping into lived devotion. And yes, that does come with responsibility. We know that. But it also comes with power. Like, this is your path, your energy, your choice. And when you are truly aligned with your goals, when they are chosen from your greatest good, well, something beautiful happens. The distractions, well, like, quiet down. The old habits that drained you, well, they lose their grip. And the noises start to fade. Not because you're forcing change, but because you have chosen something better. There are a few practices that have really, really supported me over the years when I sit down to choose my direction for a new year. And I would love to share them with you right now, not as rules, but as little gentle ideas that you can borrow, adapt, or honestly, completely ignore if they do not fit into your life. The very first thing I do is create a space that feels like it belongs only to me. This part matters more than people realize. It's not really a productivity session. It's like reflective and intuitive and a little bit sacred. So I carve out time where I won't be rushed and I give myself permission to just play. play with ideas instead of immediately organizing them. I've learned that I am personally best at this in the morning when my mind is quiet and my energy has not been pulled in a dozen directions yet. So that's usually when I protect the time. I make the physical space around me cozy and supportive. Papers, pens, a fuzzy blanket, candles, maybe a fire going if it's cold outside. I will put on music that helps me like drop in. Classical, Celtic, Viking, I don't know, something that feels expansive and grounding at the same time. And then I just let my thoughts flow. This part is intentionally unstructured. I write things down no matter how half formed or silly they sound. Words, phrases, ideas, longings. It's almost like creating a little vision board but with language instead of images. There's no editing yet, no judgment, just listening and capturing what wants to come through. I give myself a pretty loose timeline, like really loose timeline for this process. I don't force it into like one sitting. Sometimes it's an outline that I come back to over a few days, kind of letting it breathe and marinate. I'll reread it, I'll make small tweaks, I'll cross things out, and I'll add new thoughts. I wait until it feels settled before I move forward. Once I have all of those scattered thoughts on paper, I look for a theme. For me, this is one of the most important parts. Over the years, I've really stopped starting with a list of goals and started instead with a word or phrase that captures the energy I want to live inside of for the year. When I was younger, I almost always would just write the number of the year at the top of the page, like 2026. Now, though, that number has been replaced with a word, and that word has really become my anchor. It's my why. It's the energetic thread that ties everything together. And I cannot stress this enough. Defining your why changes everything. It is what keeps goals from turning into wishful thinking. It is what keeps you moving when the motivation inevitably dips. Without it, we end up with a list of, oh, wouldn't it be nice if type ideas that never quite take root. Now, when I'm choosing that theme word, I pay attention to two things: what motivates me and what inspires me. Now, they sound very similar, but they really are different. Motivation is the reason, the why behind the desire. Inspiration, well, that's the spark that actually gets you to move. When your goals pull from both, well, they stop feeling forced and they really start feeling alive. Now, from there, I start gently, organizing things, not rigidly, but just enough to kind of bring some clarity. I like to group ideas into a few life areas, almost like, little buckets that just help me see balance. Some people use what is called a wheel of life, and you can absolutely do that if it resonates with you. For me, it usually includes things like, spiritual life, physical well being, personal growth, relationships, work and finances, and joy or creativity. I will write my word or phrase in the center of the page and draw lines out from it, letting each category branch off naturally. Then I go back through all of my notes and place ideas where they belong. This is the part that reduces me feeling overwhelmed. Big dreams stop feeling heavy when they're broken into smaller, meaningful pieces. And here's the key: not everything makes the cut. I look at what truly supports the energy I'm choosing for the year. I let go of the things that sounded good but don't actually align. I tighten the focus. I choose what feels nourishing, sustainable, and true. Once that is done, I usually rewrite everything a little more cleanly. Same word in the center, same categories, clearer intentions underneath, though. And then, you guys, my approach totally shifts. I stop looking at where I am now and I start from the end. If I know where I want to land, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, I can work backwards and ask, what small steps support that version of me? Those small steps become gentle guideposts, not pressure filled deadlines. This whole process isn't about controlling the year. It's about listening deeply, choosing intentionally, and creating a container that supports who you are becoming. And well, to me, that is what choosing our magic for 2026 really looks like. All right, now this next part is an area we don't always talk about when we are setting intentions and choosing our direction, but it might be the most important piece of all. Every intention, I believe, needs a container. Every goal needs protection, and every bit of magic needs boundaries to survive. Boundaries aren't walls. They are not about shutting people out or saying no to everything. They are more like wards, intentional lines of energy that say, this is what I am available for, and this is what I am not. Without boundaries, even the most beautiful goals will leak energy. We start strong, we always start strong, don't we? But we get pulled into too many directions. That's life. We overgive, we overcommit. We say yes when our body is already tired. And then we wonder why the magic fizzles out. So, if we are choosing our magic for 2026, we also have to choose what we're going to protect. And this is where the container forms. When you look at the intentions or the theme that you've chosen for the year, ask yourself this: what needs to be held steady in order for this to grow? Because every goal comes with an energetic cost, doesn't it? Time, attention, emotional labor. And if we don't name those costs ahead of time, well, they get paid unconsciously, usually with our exhaustion. Boundaries make those costs visible. They let you decide ahead of time where your energy is sacred. For some of us, boundaries might look like protecting our mornings. For others, it might mean fewer commitments, less over explaining, or just saying no without guilt. Sometimes a boundary is as simple as not answering right away. Sometimes it is choosing rest without earning it first. And guess what? If you don't set boundaries around your goals, well, the world will set them for you. And rarely in ways that support your magic. So, alongside choosing what you want to call in this year, I want you to gently consider what you are no longer available for. Not from a place of resentment or fear, but really from clarity and self respect. Because boundaries are not the opposite of growth. They are what makes sustainable growth possible. They are the container that keeps your intentions from spilling out into overwhelm. They are what allow your energy to deepen instead of scatter. And they're one of the most loving choices that you can make for yourself this year. So as we move forward, keep this question close. What does my magic need in order to be protected in 2026? That answer is going to guide you just as much as any goal ever could. Okay, let's talk about work for just a moment because many of us, our job, our careers, they take up a huge portion of our energy, whether we want it to or not. And this is witchy work wishes after all. Career goals absolutely can and often should be one of the buckets that we look at when we are choosing our intentions for the year. But I would like to offer a gentle reframe here. Work goals don't always have to mean doing more or climbing higher. Sometimes they're about shifting energy, redefining success, or deciding what role work is meant to play in your life, like right now. This space is deeply personal. Some of you might be in a job that no longer supports the best version of you, and your goal for 2026 may simply be clarity or courage or creating a path towards something new that aligns better with your values. Others, you might genuinely love where you work. Maybe you don't want to change jobs at all, but you do want to bring different energy into your office. Maybe step up into leadership more confidently, or show up in a way that feels more grounded and empowered. Both paths are valid. When you are brainstorming work or career goals, I would love for you just to think beyond job titles and task lists. Ask yourself, what kind of work life supports the version of me I'm becoming? And that might include things that happen outside of your current job, learning a new skill, earning a certification, going back to school, or exploring something that supports the bigger career vision you hold, even if it doesn't show up on your desk like right away. Just like your personal goals shape who you are at home, your work goals, well, they shape how you show up in the world. Balance between the two really, really matters. You can even take this into meditation or visualization. Like picture yourself in your ideal work environment. How do you feel when you start your day? How does your body feel at the end of it? Well, these are sensation clues. Now, you may hear people talk about SMART goals. That is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time aware. And while I am not focusing on rigid frameworks for this year's journey, they can be useful as grounding tools, not as pressure, but as clarity. They help turn intention into something livable. And I grabbed a couple examples of work related intentions you might explore. Again, not as a checklist, but more as like inspiration. Take what resonates and leave the rest. You might choose to work on time and energy management, not to squeeze more productivity out of yourself, but to see where your time is actually going. Sometimes tracking your time for a short period can be incredibly revealing and empowering. Maybe your focus is organization, creating systems that reduce mental clutter. That could be email boundaries, inbox rituals, or clear start and stop times for your workday. For some of you, growth might look like education or certification. That doesn't always mean an expensive degree. Sometimes it's a course, a credential, or skill building that aligns with where you are headed next. You might choose to create a new work habit, something small, but something super supportive. Time blocking, stepping away from unhealthy routines, or replacing habits that drain your energy with ones that nourish it. Often, these changes support personal goals just as much as professional ones. For those of you with the entrepreneurial spirits, 2026 might be about planting seeds. Starting a business doesn't have to mean leaping all at once. It can look like a long term, intentional plan, 12 or 24 months of small, devoted steps. Another powerful area is mentorship and connection. And I know networking doesn't sound like really magical, but building relationships with people you respect and learn from and feel inspired by can quietly open doors you didn't even know existed. You might also focus on workday rhythms, creating mornings that support you instead of rushing you. And yes, good work mornings really do start the night before. Preparing your space, your clothes, your intentions, all of that matters. Finally, with this little section here, I want to talk about something that absolutely does belong in the work goals category, and that is balance. Sometimes the most aligned work goal is deciding not to hustle, not to climb, not to push. I don't know, maybe this season of your life is about doing your job well, earning what you need, and fully releasing work when the day is done so that you have energy for your home, your creativity, your people, and your magic. That choice is not failure, it's wisdom. So, as you consider your work and career goals for 2026, just remember that success doesn't have one shape. Your goal is not to meet someone else's definition of achievement. It really is to choose a work life that supports your well being, your values, and the version of you that you're becoming. And that too is choosing your magic. We ended 2025 with the episode about the Wheel of the Year and walked through our journey with it together. And now we are going to let the 2026 Wheel of the Year carry the work. We've talked about choosing our magic, creating containers, and setting intentions that actually feel livable. On the next step in this process is letting the Wheel of the Year support the journey. Because we witches don't grow in straight lines, do we? We grow in cycles. One of the biggest reasons traditional goal setting feels so exhausting is that it expects the same level of output and focus and momentum all year long. Well, the Wheel of the Year reminds us that different seasons are meant for different kinds of work. And when we honor that, I believe everything becomes easier to sustain. Instead of asking yourself, how do I make this happen as fast as possible? We ask, when is the energy right for this to grow? Think of your goals as living things. They don't need constant pushing, they need the right season. The wheel gives us a natural rhythm to work with. Times for planting, times for tending, times for harvesting, and just as importantly, times for resting and releasing. You might choose to align the beginning of a goal with the quieter inward energy of winter, that time for dreaming and listening. Spring becomes a season of gentle action and experimentation. Summer supports visibility and confidence and momentum. Autumn offers reflection, a little refinement, and, harvesting of what's worked. And winter, again, invites rest, review, and release. We do the same thing with the Sabbats themselves. Each one carries its own energy that can support different aspects of your intentions. Imbolc is perfect for seed ideas and recommitment. Ostara supports balance and growth. Beltane, well, that fuels creativity and passion. Litha encourages a bit of expansion, right? And that confidence. Lunasa reminds us to celebrate effort and adjust what is not sustainable. Mabon brings gratitude and evaluation. Samhain invites deep release and honest reflection. And then Yule. Yule returns us to rest, hope, and that quiet intention. You don't need to map every single detail right now. Even choosing just one or two moments on the wheel to, check in with your goals can be incredibly, incredibly powerful. This is where boundaries and self-compassion really do come into play. You are no longer asking yourself to perform the same way in every season. You are allowing the wheel to, hold you when your energy dips and to lift you when it rises. So here's a simple way to work with this. If you would like to, take your word or your theme, whatever you're doing for the year, and ask, how might this look in each season? Not as a task list. We're looking more as like an energy shift for this one. Like, what does this intention need in spring? What does it ask of you in the summer? What does it want released in the autumn? And what does it need to rest in winter? When you map out your goals this way, I really feel like, I don't know, you're just no longer racing the year, right? You're walking with it. And that's magical. The wheel of the year doesn't just mark time. It teaches us, when to move, when to pause, when to trust that growth is happening even when we can't see it. So, as we step into 2026, I say let the wheel be our ally. Let it remind us that everything unfolds in its own season and that we are exactly where we need to be. A quick pause because I would like to say this. I know that not everyone works with the wheel of the year, and that is completely okay. Some of us don't move best by seasons. We move by the moon. So if your practice is more lunar than Sabbath based, you are not missing out on anything. You're just working with a different rhythm, really. One that's shorter, a little more fluid, and often easier to integrate into like our everyday lives. The moon gives us a monthly cycle of intention, action, reflection, and release. And for many witches, that cadence feels more supportive than looking ahead at the whole year all at once. So if that is you, if that speaks to your heart, here's how you can work with your goals with the moon instead. Think of each month as a mini container. At the new moon, you set the intention, not the whole goal, just the focus for this specific cycle. Ask yourself, what am I willing to give energy to right now? As the moon waxes, you take gentle action. This is where you experiment, right? You build momentum and you try things on without needing them to be like perfect. The full moon, you reflect and you celebrate. What moved forward? What surprised you? What deserves acknowledgement? This is harvest energy, even if it's the smallest harvest. And as the moon wanes, well, you release. You let go of what did not work, what drained you, what no longer feels aligned. And you simplify before you begin again. Over time, these monthly cycles, well, they stack up. Progress happens quietly, consistently, and with far less burnout. You can also assign different intentions to different months. One month focusing on, work energy, another on rest or relationships, another one on creativity or healing. The moon does not ask you to do everything at once. I think it really invites you to tend to what's ready. And just like with the wheel of the year, boundaries are going to matter here too. Lunar work is about checking in honestly. Like, do I have the energy for this right now? If not, well, then you rest. And yes, you move gently forward. So whether you are working with the wheel, the moon, maybe you're doing a blend of both. I think the magic is pretty much the same. You are honoring cycles instead of fighting them, and you're choosing alignment over urgency. I say let the moon be your reminder that growth doesn't have to be loud or fast or even constant to be real. Okay, before we wrap up today, I would love to leave you with one simple question, something you can carry with you as you move through 2026. Think of it as like a quiet spell that just keeps working long after this episode ends. Whenever you are faced with a decision, whenever you feel pulled in too many directions, whenever you are unsure whether to say yes, no, or right now, ask yourself this. Does this support the way I want my life to feel? Let this question become your filter, your boundary check, your monthly or even seasonal moment of pause. You can ask it when you are planning your schedule, when you are setting work expectations, when you are choosing how to spend your time, your energy, or your attention. And the answer doesn't have to be perfect or immediate. Sometimes it's a soft, yes, yes, it does. Sometimes it is going to be a very clear no. And sometimes I think it's an invitation to adjust, to simplify or to choose differently. This question helps bring you back to yourself. It reminds you that your goals are meant to support your life, not consume it. That your magic is meant to feel nourishing, not depleting. So, as you step into 2026, let this be something you return to again and again and again. Let it guide your choices. Let it protect your energy. Let it remind you that you are allowed to choose a life that just feels good to live inside. And that is truly choosing your magic. All right, I do have a poem for today's episode and the moon update for this week. I'm going to go grab those notes and I will be right back. All right, our poem for starting off 2026 is all about choosing our magic. And it goes. This year is not a race to win, not boxes checked, not proving when. It's not a list that stills your breath or trades your rest for someone else's best. This year is a feeling, soft and true, a life that fits the shape of you. A steady pace, a grounded way, a yes that feels like it can stay. Let goals be seated, not heavy chains. Let them grow slow in sun and rain, fed by truth and held with care, protected by the bounds you dare. Move when the season opens wide. Rest when the moon pulls you inside. Trust the growth you cannot see, the quiet work of who you'll be. And when the world asks more than fair, when choice feels foggy, stop right there. One simple spell will light the way, one truth to guide both night and day. Does this support the life I feel, the days I want, the peace that's real? If yes, step forward, calm and kind. If no, release. and trust the sign. This is how the year begins, not rushed, not loud, not worn out thin, but chosen slow with heart and grace, a life that feels like home, your place. Okay, let's see the moon this week for January 7th. It is a big waning gibbous moon. So we are actually coming right off the January wolf moon in Cancer, and that alone tells us a lot about the emotional weather we are in. Cancer moons are tender, watery, they are memory heavy. They crack us open around home and family and safety, around belonging and our inner child. The wolf moon adds that primal layer, instinct, survival, like what do I actually need to feel okay? Now we slide that into the waning gibbous phase, and this is where the magic just really settles in. This phase is all about integration and emotional digestion. Not releasing yet, we're not cutting cords, but we are understanding. Think of it as letting, the feelings finish speaking, sorting through what surfaced under the full moon, and finding meaning instead of reaction. After a Cancer full moon, the waning gibbous stage asks us, like, what did that emotion teach me? Not really how to fix it or how do I get over it. It's more like, what is this showing me about my needs? What felt nourishing? What felt draining? What do I want to protect more fiercely going forward? This is such a beautiful time to reflect on family dynamics, chosen or blood. Notice where you are overgiving emotionally. Recognize where you actually felt supported. And then adjust how you care for yourself without guilt. There is such a softness here, but there's also a bunch of clarity. The wolf moon held up the truth, right? And the waning gibbous helps us translate it into wisdom. How to work with this energy gently? Well, right now it's not the moment for those big spells or bold declarations. This is quieter magic. Think about, like journaling instead of manifesting. Think about conversations instead of confrontations. Think about rest instead of productivity. And think about nourishment instead of discipline. Ask yourself what emotional boundaries, want to be honored right now. What does home, mean to me this year? Like, really mean to me? And where do I need more safety, not pushing? I think the overall vibe, if I had to sum it up into one feeling, it is this: I am allowed to soften without losing strength. Like, you are not meant to rush out of this moon. I think you're meant to carry its lessons forward, a little lighter, a little wiser, and much more emotionally aware. And I know you're going to do it beautifully, exactly how a witch should. So today we talked about our 2026 goals, and I really want to anchor this conversation into the moon we are actually standing under right now. We are in that waning gibbous phase, again, coming off that January wolf moon in Cancer. And this is really a gift for the kind of planning that we are doing together right now. This isn't a, lock it in, finalize everything, make it perfect kind of moon. The waning gibbous helps us draft things out. It helps us reflect and refine and, soften the edges of what we think we want before we fully commit to it. We can use this energy to start sketching our 2026 goals by first asking how, again, we want to feel for the year. What emotions do we want more of? Where do we want to feel safer, more supported, more at home in our own lives? Cancer energy reminds us that goals aren't just about achievement, they are also about care. This moon also supports looking back at what worked and what drained us. Again, not with judgment, right? We want honesty here. The waning gibbous is perfect for noticing patterns and lessons and emotional truths from the last year or two and letting those insights guide what we choose to carry forward in 2026. Instead of writing goals that push us into survival mode, we can let this moon help us shape goals that include protection and boundaries and nourishment. If a goal doesn't feel sustainable or supportive, this phase gives us permission to pause and rework it. Think of the moon saying, hey, let's build this gently. No pressure. We're not rushing. We're just using thoughtful intention right now. At the beginning of this episode, I mentioned getting some very, very specific direction from one of my animal oracle card decks and choosing to use that card just for me, not the general collective energy of our Patreon family. I want to go back and share something very personal with you if you guys still have time. This is my fourth, or I don't know, is it my fifth? Yeah, my fifth episode about goals. And by now, you know this is something I have been doing since my late teen years. And now in my mid 50s, it really has become ingrained in me. I like the process. I enjoy making lists, and I'm overall pretty good about creating a game plan to achieve my goals. But every once in a while, we get a lesson that repeats. And I really do think this happens to all of us, no matter how intentional we are, no matter how good we've gotten at setting goals, crossing things off our lists, or doing the right work at the right time. Back in December, when I was working on those last couple of episodes together with you, especially the one about the Wheel of the Year and our 2025 wrap up, I got hit pretty hard with the awareness of a lesson I keep circling back to. One of those themes that taps you on the shoulder again and again until you finally stop and really look at it. And this time, I could not ignore it. This lesson, the card, the slap in the face also happened on our 12/12 portal, which really does not get a bunch of attention. Certainly not like our 8/8 Lionsgate portal. But my message was super clear, and it came on a day that is less about flashy manifesting and more about truth. The 12/12 portal is one that asks us to look honestly at where we are, what we have built this year, and what is actually sustainable going forward. I already had some momentum on, this idea of what I was not bringing into 2026 with me. But what really pushed it into focus for me was the animal oracle card draw. And again, I drew the card on the 12/12 portal, and well, it told me everything I already knew and needed confirmation on. You know how those moments land, right? When a card doesn't just feel interesting, it feels pointed, like it's speaking directly to the thing you've been skirting around. That card made it very clear that if I wanted to break this habit, for good, I really couldn't rely on willpower alone. I needed to set myself up for success in a more supportive and intentional way. And, well, that is when something shifted. I reached out for a consult with someone to talk through some coaching options with, because for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely ready to learn this lesson. Not just notice it, not just name it, but actually move through it so it wouldn't keep repeating in the same way. The card didn't feel like a warning. It felt like permission. Permission to ask for help. Permission to do it differently this time. And honestly, you guys, that's what caught my attention. Because usually when a lesson repeats, we are tired of it. We're annoyed by it. We think, have I not already learned the lesson with this one? But this time felt different. This time was motivation. This was clarity. There was that, quiet inner knowing that said, okay, I think I'm finally ready. Do you guys ever get that feeling? That moment when the pattern shows itself again, but instead of frustration, there's curiosity. Instead of resistance, there's a willingness to build support around yourself. Instead of powering through alone, you pause and say, maybe I don't have to do this the same way anymore. I think those moments are powerful. They are not failures. They are invitations. Now, in the language of the Wheel of the Year, I think they're like seasonal returns. The landscape looks familiar, right? But we are different. We lived another cycle. We've gathered more wisdom. We are standing in the same place, but with new eyes. And sometimes the lesson isn't asking us to work harder. Sometimes it's asking us to plan better, to create structure, to receive help without guilt. And that realization alone, to me, felt like progress. So if you are noticing a repeating theme in your own life right now, especially around a habit you want to change, I want you to know this. It does not mean you are behind. It does not mean you have failed. It might simply mean that you are finally ready to set yourself up for success instead of struggle. And that, my friend, is something to honor. We are allowed to grow in spirals, not straight lines. And we do not have to walk the lesson alone. If you want the full version of what I'm talking about, the specific card that I pulled, and, oh my goodness, the January card that followed afterwards, which was so similar, I did a special video over on our Patreon account for Hearth and Hen, talking about exactly what happened, exactly what I went through, what I am going through right now, and how I chose to honor the card's direction. This was really a big game changer for me, and I'm really, really excited to get personal and share the video with you. So again, that's over on Patreon. It is in our Hearth and Hen section, and it's a full video of me talking about exactly what happened. But for right now, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here with me today. If you are sitting with your journal this week, let yourself draft your goals loosely. Let them breathe. Let them evolve. You are not behind. You are aligning. And that is powerful, powerful work. You are doing this exactly right. And I'm so glad we are walking into 2026 together under this kind of moonlight. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, a great weekend, and I will talk with you next week. Thank you for joining me today at Witchy Work Wishes, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. For more information and additional content, please visit me online at witchyworkwishes.com. If you want to send me a personal note, please email me at info@witchyworkwishes.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Witchy Work Wishes.